Hello, I'm Mike, and this is Will with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing issue 70 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine today. This issue came with the second half of our Goliath Rockgrinder, so we'll get that painted up and see it in action in today's game. So first up we have the painting guide for the Goliath Rockgrinder, and here we actually have a guide on the various sub-assemblies that will make it easier to paint and where to place any sticky tack in order to cover up any areas to leave some bare plastics to ensure that when you glue it together, it glues together solidly. Base coat each sub-assembly with Abaddon Black, and then dry brushing the tyres with Mechanica Standard Grey, and then you have to go over most of the hull, the drill dozer and the clearance incinerator with Administratum Grey, which is going to take at least 3 coats to get a solid colour, washing it with Agrex Earthshade to give it a nice dirty appearance, dry brushing it with Administratum Grey, and then dry brushing it with Pallid Witch Flesh. Then for the crew, they're essentially the same as the Neophyte hybrids, so base coating their tunics and armour and undersuits with Administratum Grey, Catachan Flesh if you want either of them to have dark skin, or Wraithbone if you want them to have lighter skin, Lead Belcher for any of the mechanical parts, grenades, weapon parts, as well as all the saw blades on the drill dozer. There are also some flat panels on the hull which you can paint with Lead Belcher to help them stand out, any of the railings and the exhausts, the metal parts of the wheels, and then any trinkets the crew have you can paint with Retributor armour, some of the parts of the railing clamps to break up the silver, and the ignition cover of the clearance incinerator and gas canisters, then Mephiston Red for any goggle lenses and blasting charges, and you can go over some of the cables on the hull, and some of the railings have wrappings as well, and then Abaddon Black base coat for the lights, and some of the cables on the crew, Avalanche Sunset for any of the fuel canisters dotted around the vehicle and the lenses of the lights, Rakoff Flesh for the tarpaulin on the back, Macragge Blue for the vehicle's viewport, Caliban Green for the information display on the gunnery controls. And then shading all of those areas, so Reikland Flesh Shade for any pouches, any gold parts, any yellow parts, Noan Oil for the crew's armour and the green screen, any of the silver parts and the blue viewport, Agrex Earthshade for the tarpaulin, Caribou Crimson for any of the skin, Colia Green Shade for their trousers, and then highlighting Calgar Blue for the viewport, Nightquestor Flesh for any of the leather or the dark skin, Pallid Witch Flesh for any of the lighter skin and the tarpaulin, Auric Flesh for that little information screen, Wild Rider Red for any of the red bits, Corax White for any of the light grey bits, Mechanica Standard Grey for any black bits, and Stormhost Silver for any of the metal or gold bits. And that's it finished. So now you can remove any of the sticky tack, and if you need to remove any excess paint with a mould line remover, you can glue it all together, although don't glue the clearance incinerator if you want it to swivel around. And then there's the vehicle up to this point, mostly completed. And then we have some more background on the Genestealer Cults. The Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor, as it is known, formed by the Triss dynasty on Gozar Quintus. The first encounter with the Genestealer Cults, but it has spread far through the Imperium and no one knows its true extent. And even though the infestation on Gozar Quintus was eventually discovered and quelled by Chaplain Orton Cassius and his Deathwatch kill team, the Triss dynasty had long been corrupted and their influence had already spread throughout the galaxy. So even though one cult was put down, many more would go on to rise up in the future. And then aspects of how the cult was able to gain influence and the events that led up to the arrival of the Deathwatch kill team and so on. But now I'll hand you over to Will. He'll take us into today's game while we'll see the Rockgrinder in action.
So we'll shortly get to our introductory game for the Goliath Rockgrinder, but in order to do that we'll have to go back to issue 59 to look at its datasheet. So it's a vehicle model, obviously. It has a 12-inch move. It is toughness 10 with a 3+ save and 10 wounds, and the little skull icon beneath the wounds, which will explain what that means in a minute. It has leadership of 7+ and an OC of 3. It has 3 ranged weapons, a clearance incinerator, which is a torrent weapon that also ignores cover. It has a 12-inch range, makes 2d6 attacks, which are strength 6, AP -1 and 1 damage. It has a demolition charge cache, which is a blast weapon, which is also assault and hazardous. Only a 6-inch range, making d6 + 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, strength 12, AP -2, 2 damage. And the heavy stubber, which is 36-inch range, 3 attacks, rapid fire 3, hitting on 4s, strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. And its drill dozer blade gives it 6 attacks in melee with sustained hits 1. The hit on 3s are strength 10, AP -2 and 2 damage each. Below that it explains that when it is damaged, i.e. it has 1 to 3 wounds remaining, you subtract 1 from its hit rolls every time it makes an attack. That's what that little skull in the wounds counter means. And it doesn't have any faction abilities because it cannot cult ambush, unlike the rest of the Genestealer Cults, but it does have the Deadly Demise D3 ability, so it inflicts D3 mortal wounds on things if it blows up on a 6 when it's destroyed. And back to the current issue, before we get to the game, we have the Combat Patrol description for the Genestealer Cult, where it explains exactly what every model in the Combat Patrol has. And the list for these is very long because all the neophyte hybrids all have a huge variety of weapons, so I won't read all that in detail. And at the bottom there's some pictures of the models showing which weapons are which. And on the next page there's a photograph of the full Combat Patrol and more equipment descriptions. And then we have the introductory scenario for the Goliath Rockgrinder, grind all opposition. So there's actually no lore section here, so not entirely clear exactly what's going on. But the Genestealer Cults player has the Goliath Rockgrinder and a single unit of 10 neophyte hybrids, while the opponent gets a selection of forces that go through a sequence as the game progresses. As it says in the How to Play box, each time an opposition unit is destroyed, the Genestealer Cults player advances to the next stage of the game, moving further along the scoring track, which is shown over the page. Here's the deployment map. The Goliath Rockgrinder goes in the middle of one side of the board, and there's an opposition deployment zone on the other end, while the 10 neophyte hybrids are deployed within 6 inches of the Rockgrinder before the start of the game. And if you remember the introductory games for the Hellbrute and the Death Dread, this one works very similarly. So the first enemy in stage 1 is 3 Hearthkin warriors, and once they're destroyed, 2 Einhir Hearthguard are placed in the opposition deployment zone, then a Carl, then 3 Orc Boys, then 2 Deathcopters, then a Boomdacker Snazwagon, 3 Infernus Marines, 2 Terminators, a Chaplain on bike, and a Captain in Terminator armor in that order. And every time one of those units is destroyed, you advance to the next stage, and the next unit is placed in the next opposition command phase. And like in those previous games, there's a scoring track. The big number in the middle is the stage you get to, and the top row is the Genestealer Cult player's victory points. The bottom row is the opposition player's victory points. So the Genestealer Cult's player gets more points the higher the stage they get to, whereas the opposition player loses points. So much like in those previous games, if the Genestealer Cult's player gets to stage 6, they effectively win because they'll have 6 points, whereas the opposition drops to 5. So stage 6 is the one to aim for, but obviously we'll play through as many as the Genestealer Cults manage to battle their way through. And finally, a couple of tutorials. Firstly, for the damaged vehicle, rule with the Goliath Rockgrinder, because it becomes damaged when it's only got 1 to 3 wounds remaining, it subtracts 1 from its hit rolls, as mentioned earlier. It's the first model we've got in the collection that does that. And a reminder of how Deadly Demise works if it gets destroyed. And then the victory outcomes for whether the Genestealer Cults are victorious or not. So we'll get the board set up and see how well they can do. So here is our battlefield. I didn't mention before, but we do each place 2 terrain features as well. So we've got a couple of line of sight blocking, a crater and a barricade. The Genestealer Cults have been deployed as their first adversary unit. So here is a closer view of our new Rockgrinder and the hybrids that are accompanying it within 6 inches. And their first foe is 3 Hearthkin warriors. And as we've done in the previous scenarios, we rolled randomly to see what equipment they have because there were just 3 of them, and we actually just got 3 with iron rifles and nothing special. And as usual, there are of course no faction abilities or command points or stratagems in this game. The scenario does specify that the opposition player goes first, and there's no point keeping track of turns in this one because there's no turn limit, so we'll just be straight into the first adversary turn. So the 3 Hearthkin have moved towards the cover, not quite reaching it this turn. Then they'll shoot their iron rifles at the neophytes because they'll be damaging the Rockgrinder on 6s, so I might as well use the firepower where it's better employed. So they just have 3 shots hitting on 4s. Getting 2 hits, wounding on 3s, double 1, no damage. And with that we'll be on to the Genestealer Cult's turn.
So the only movement is the Rockgrinder going to go to get an inch away basically from the 3 Hearthkin. The neophytes will stay where they are. I don't want to get them too close to the enemy deployment zone because they might get charged. And then we'll just shoot at the Hearthkin. I guess I'll start with the Rockgrinder. 2d6 automatic hits from the Clearance Incinerator for 11. It's sent 6, so it's wounding on 3s. That's going to be 8 wounds at -1.
8 5+ saves for the 3 warriors. Well, they fail all of them, so they're thoroughly roasted.
And also, unless I specify, I won't use the demolition charge cache unless I say I am, because I think if I say it's going to fire, it does fire, so I would have to roll hazardous, even if I don't roll to hit with it or anything.
Yeah, so even though the unit was destroyed, you do still have to roll hazardous for weapons that you declare you are shooting with. But with them destroyed, the Genestealer Cults advance to stage 2, and we'll see our next opponent. The next foe is 2 Einhir Hearthguard, and they've appeared up by the terrain to the Rockgrinder's left. They'll put their guns into the neophytes as well, because once again they're not going to be wounding the Rockgrinder on anything better than 6s. Start with the grenade launchers, it's d6 plus 2 shots each, because they're blast and it's a unit of 10. 12 shots hitting on 3s. 9 hits wounding on 3s. 7 wounds with no AP.
Plus armor saves. Failed all of them.
And 3 shots each from the Vulcanite Disintegrators hitting on 3s. 3 hits wounding on 3s with devastating wounds. Just 1 devastating wound, so 8 dead in total.
I'll leave the seismic cannon and the Weber.
And they might as well declare a charge on the Rockgrinder because it'll charge them anyway. But if I do this, they'll get hit before it does hit them and also before it flames them. So their charge, is enough. So they can both make it into base contact, obviously. 3 attacks each, hitting on 3s. 3 hits, winning on 5s because they're strength 6 versus toughness 10. Just 1 at -2 AP.
5 up armour. Made it. And 6 attacks back from the Rockgrinder on 3s. 6s are sustained. 3 hits plus a sustained for 4 hits. Wounding on 3s because it's just 10. 3 wounds at -2.
So they're on to a 4+ save. Made 1, failed 1. It's 2 damage, so it just kills 1. And that's the end of adversary's turn. On to the Genestealer Cult turn again.
So the 2 remaining neophytes are battle shocked, which is going to be pretty irrelevant, but we do technically have to roll. And they just advance so they can get into some cover, so maybe they'll live a tiny bit longer than their friends. Rockgrinder is going to stay in melee, and it can shoot its heavy stubber and clearance incinerator at the remaining Hearthguard. So the incinerator gets 2 hits, that wound on 4s, 1 wound at -1.
3+ save. Saved.
6 shots from the heavy stubber on 5s, you never know, you got a hit. Wounds on a 5, it does, no AP.
2+. Saved. And then in melee, the remaining Hearthguard gets to go first. 3 attacks on 3s. 2 hits, wounding on 5s. Ooh, double 6. -2.
5 ups. Made 1, failed 1, it's down to 9. And 6 attacks on 3s. 4 hits. Wounded on 3s. 2 wounds at -2.
4+. Failed 1. So that is enough. So stage 2 completed. Advancing on to stage 3 just in time for the adversary's turn and the next unit to arrive. The next opponent is the Carl, who has arrived to avenge his kin. He'll put his Vulcanite into the hybrids over there. He hits on 2s with 3 shots. 2 hits. Wounding on 3s with devastating wounds. Double 1. And then he'll just charge the Rockgrinder. Another double 1. But I think that's probably enough because he's right next to it. Unfortunately, he was close enough that he didn't embarrass himself. And now he gets to punch it. 3 attacks on 3s. They all hit. Strength 8 only though, so it's still winning on 5s. Nope, none. And he's going to get drill-dozed.
6 attacks on 3s. 4 hits, but with 2 sustained, so that's 6 hits. Wounding on 2s. 5 wounds at -2.
He has a 4+ invulnerable save, which he made 4 of, so he only takes 2 damage. And that's his turn done. Back to the Genestealer Cults.
Neophytes are unbattle shocked this turn, and then the only shooting is going to be the Rockgrinder into the Carl with the incinerator and the heavy stubber. So the incinerator gets 5 hits, wounding on 3s, gets 3 wounds at -1.
4+. Take 2, so he's down to 1 wound remaining.
Heavy stubber on 5s. Whoa! 5 hits, wounding on 5s. Big ol' wound.
3+. Just. So the Carl gets to hit it first in melee because it's not his turn on 3s. Oh, only got 1 hit this time. Wounds on a 5. Did. -2 AP.
5 up. Ooh, that's important. It's 3 damage. 6 attacks back. 5 hits plus 2 sustains. We've got 7 hits. Wounding on 2s. Getting 6 wounds. -2.
Got to pass all of his 4+s. No, Carl gets minced. And with that, we advance on to stage 4, which will be 3 Orc Boys. We roll randomly again to see what equipment the Orcs have, and actually with some decent rolling, got the knob, the rocket launcher, and a single shooter boy. So the weapons that can actually threaten the Rockgrinder did turn up. And when they shoot, we'll shoot the shooter at the 2 neophytes, the slugger and the rocket launcher into the Rockgrinder. Rocket launcher, D3 shots, 2, hitting on 5s. Oh, I did get a hit. Wounds on a 5 still, it's only strength 9. Oh, that's a wound at -2.
5 up armour. Made it.
Yeah, that's good, that's 3 damage. 2 shots at the neophytes. Oh, they both hit. Wounding on 3s. Only 1. They are in cover.
4 up. Made that.
And a slugger. Missed. And they don't need to roll their charge because they're going to be right in front of it. The knob is the important one. 3 attacks hitting on 4s. Hit twice. Still 5s to wound, even with strength 9. 1 wound at -2.
5 up armour. 3 6s in a row.
It's a tough Rockgrinder, this one. And then the 2 with close combat weapons didn't do anything, so the Rockgrinder gets to grind them back.
6 attacks on 3s, getting 3. Wounding on 2s because they're toughness 5. That's 3 wounds at -2, so no save.
And with 2 damage, even the knob will go down to that. So the Orcs are cleared away in their own turns. The Genestealer Cults do advance to stage 5, and then they actually have a turn to reposition before more stuff appears.
So the Rockgrinder might as well move so it can get some cover potentially from certain angles, because it can benefit from that. Next up is some Deathcopters, so they can move once after they arrive, so there's no way it can escape from them, so I'll just let them come to me and get some cover from their rockets.
So 2 Deathcopters have arrived. This is in their command phase, so they do get to move. And it was both rocket launcher ones that turned up, and they're going to move to there because I actually want them to charge the neophytes, try and get rid of them, because they could theoretically go and hide somewhere, which would be difficult for some of the slower things to catch. But the rockets can be shot into the Rockgrinder. 2d3 rockets, only 3, hitting on 5s, 1, wounds on a 5, nope, and then a charge into the neophyte hybrids. 6 will be enough. Yeah. So they're going to go flying into the 2 remaining cultists. And we have 6 attacks each, hitting on 3s. 10 hits, wounding on 3s, because it's strength 5. 7 wounds.
Go cultists! Well, some armour saves, but not enough.
So they are destroyed, just the Rockgrinder left. But it'll be on to the Genestealer Cult turn.
So Rockgrinder's going to drive out from behind its little cubby to try and avenge its brethren and ram a helicopter from behind. I don't know how that works. But we'll start by shooting with the clearance incinerator and the heavy stubber, not the demo charges because they only hit on 5s. Incinerators, 9 hits, wounding on 4s. Only 2 wounds at -1.
5 plus. Nope, 2 damage on a Deathcopter.
And the stubber, 3 hits, 5s. Oh, and a wound.
4 plus. Oh, take another.
Oh. So I'm going to charge like that, so I'm further away from the deployment zone, because I want to be around this end of the board by the time the Space Marines start turning up. And we get to go first. We've got 6 attacks on 3s, 4 hits, strength 10, so 3s, 4 wounds at -2.
6s. Made 1, but 1 will destroy the damaged one, and then 2 more, 2 damage each will take out the other one, so they're gone. And that's stage 5 completed. On to stage 6. And in stage 6 we get the Battle of the Buggies, with the Boomdacker Snazwagon turning up. Right, they might as well move up, because although it has many shots, they're all going to be wounding on 6s, so better off actually trying to engage it in melee and at least try and do some damage. The mech special has 16 shots at this range, with sustained hits 1, hitting on 5s. 5 hits with 1 sustained, then wounding on 6s. A big shooter in the Grot Blaster did nothing, and then it's going to charge. It has 4 attacks in melee, hitting on 4s. 1 hit, it's strength 7, so it wounds on a 5. Oh, it did, at -1 AP.
4 plus armour. Made it. 6 attacks back, hitting on 4s, because all the smoke from the Snazwagon makes it hard to run over, so it helped. I only got 2 hits. Strength 10, so it's going to be 3s. 1 wound at -2.
6 plus save. Oh, yes.
Oh.
No damage either way. On to the Genestealer's turn.
So the only thing to do is to fire the Incinerator and the Heavy Stubber. So the Incinerator gets 10 hits, wounding on 5s. That's still 4 wounds, that's not bad, at -1 as well.
5 plus. Made 2, so 2 damage taken, down to 7 wounds.
6 shots from the Heavy Stubber on 5s, because it's already -1 hit for firing a weapon in melee. 3 hits, wounding on 5s. Oh, a wound.
4 plus. Nope, down to 6. Snagwagon gets to go first, 4 attacks on 4s. 3 hits this time. Wounding on 5s. No.
6 attacks back. On 4s, but 6 is sustained, so that's 2 hits and 2 sustained for 4. Wounding on 3s for 3 wounds at -2.
6s. Oh, I didn't make any. So that's 6 damage in total, which is enough to get rid of it. It does have Deadly Demise though. Does it blow up on a 6? Oh, it does. It's only Deadly Demise 1, but it does do a damage. So the Rockgrinder's down to 8. There was actually only the 2nd wound inflicted on it, and that was the Genestealer's turn, so it's straight to the adversary turn for stage 7. So 3 Infernus Marines have arrived. They could go further away and try and avoid being charged, but then they won't be able to use their flamethrowers, which rather defeats the point of being here in the first place. So they'll move up like that, and then we'll use the Pyre Blasters. 3d6 automatic hits. 10. Wounding on 6s. 4 wounds.
4 3 plus saves. Failed 1, it's down to 7.
And they might as well declare a charge on it for the same reasons before. They'll get to hit it first. An 8 should be enough. So they make their charge, and they have 9 attacks hitting on 3s. Get them all in the box. Didn't help, only 4 hits. And they're winning on 6s. No.
6 attacks back on 3s. 6 is sustained, so that's a miss, but with the sustained, 6 hits. Wounding on 2s. 5 wounds at -2.
Oh dear, need to make some 5s. Made 2, but 3 going through is enough to kill them all. And that brings us on to stage 8, where the Genestealer Cult have a turn to reposition again.
So it's just going to reverse to the edge of the battlefield because the next wave is 2 Terminators, who I am more scared of than the Furnace Marines, so I want to be able to charge them first.
Well, because the Rockgrinder is so far away, the Terminators are actually going to deploy a little bit further back. They wouldn't be in rapid fire range anyway, because then it's not guaranteed to be able to charge them, because it has to drive a bit further, and they'll shoot it a bit. Well, they did actually get a wound with their Storm Bolters.
3+. Made it.
But that's it for their turn. On to the Genestealer Cults.
So we're going to drive up, going to try and charge the Terminators, even if it might be a bit difficult, but we can flame and shoot them with the Heavy Stubber first. Clearance Incinerator gets 11 hits, wounding on 3s, 10 wounds and -1.
10 3+ saves, this was actually probably quite bad. Yeah, it actually kills an entire Terminator.
And the Heavy Stubber, 6 shots on 4, gets 2 hits. No wounds from the Heavy Stubber. Charge roll is a 7, which isn't going to be enough.
So 1 Terminator still left, onto the infantry's turn. So the remaining Terminator will move up 5 inches towards the heretical vehicle, and well, I guess it'll shoot it first, but the main event is going to be the charge. Oh, superb roll, we've got 2 wounds with a Storm Bolter.
3+ armour. Failed once, down to 6.
And the charge roll needs about a 4, that's a 6. So we'll come in and smack it with a Power Fist. 3 attacks on 3s. Oh, well, that's cocked, but it's 2 hits so far. 3 hits with a 666. Ship doesn't do anything special. Winning on 5 though, because it's only strength 8. Whoa, what is this? This Terminator wants to avenge his fallen brother.
5s. It failed them all. It's dead.
Oh.
Does it explode? No.
So I guess the moral of the story is don't anger a Space Marine veteran in Terminator armour. But anyway, the Genestealer Cult still made it to stage 8, so they get 8 points and the opposition get 3 points. So a Genestealer Cult victory for the scenario. And the remaining 2 opponents would be the Chaplain on bike and then the Space Marine Captain. But actually both of those are arguably worse in melee than a unit of 2 Terminators. The Chaplain's melee weapon's not very good against vehicles, and the Captain will be winning it on 6s, so they're both actually going to struggle. So I think we'll leave it there, and we'll recap that for you now. So that was the game for issue 70 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. How did you think that went?
It actually went pretty well, to be honest. I did make some quite clutch saving throws. I think I rolled something like 4 6s in a row for saves, a couple of which were against rockets or the Carl's Fist, which do flat 3 damage, which definitely would have hurt the Rockgrinder.
I mean, the last Terminator did roll really well, but yeah, it probably should have been at less than 6 wounds when the Terminator started his round of combat. Especially given that I was actually lucky to roll, for example, the Power Claw knob and the rocket launcher with the Orc Boys, which then didn't actually do anything to it.
But I think compared to some of the other games we've had, this is a fairly easy one for the Rockgrinder. Plus it had a squad of 10 friends who didn't actually do anything except distract the enemy a little bit. I never fired their guns because the Rockgrinder killed everything first.
Yeah, we've laid the models out so you can see where it fits in the hierarchy of units. Then there's also the neophytes who are just sort of there.
But you can kind of see that, at least in Combat Patrol, it probably is going to look very good because it's so hard to deal with. Because a lot of the weapons don't really go up to strength 10, apart from things like the Bright Lance on the Wraith Lord. And you can probably figure out that it's going to struggle with the walkers, so the Hellbrute, the Death Dread and the Wraith Lord, but it can definitely bully infantry quite well. Plus its Flamer can fire without penalty in melee. Also really good in Overwatch.
Yeah, and having 6 attacks all the time with sustained hits means it's automatically better than the Psychophage, which has D6 attacks at strength 6.
And it's really beefy. That's the toughest unit in the Genestealer Cults Combat Patrol. It's another good distraction unit like the Aberrants. It does get damaged. I think it's one of the 2 things in this collection that does, which can hurt it quite a bit, although it's not going to hurt the Flamer.
Yeah, the Heavy Stubber is essentially irrelevant. It might do a wound here and there, but it's no better than the Neophyte Hybrids one.
The demo charges I probably would only save to fire at the Wraith Lord when it really needs to hurt things. It's really good at tank shock as well because it rolled 10 dice and it mangled the Orc Buggy fairly reasonably as well. But then again, the Orc Buggy is not necessarily a good melee unit.
Yeah, the Snazwagon isn't an anti-vehicle unit. All its weaponry is geared toward light infantry, really. The full Terminator squad with Oath of Moment and their stratagem can probably deal with it.
The Chaos Terminators as well can probably deal with it with Dark Packs. And it's got an OC of 3, I believe, as well, so it's actually reasonably good at contesting objectives, or at least against, say, the Space Marines.
Yeah, it could charge an objective with the Infernus Marines or the Havocs on it, for example, probably take out at least 2 of them in melee and then take the objective from them just because they have poor OC. It can probably exercise quite a bit of board control just by being fast and having that melee attack that nothing really wants to be stuck in combat with. It obviously is a rather different kind of unit to all the other Genestealer Cult units because it doesn't have Cult Ambush and it's really tough, whereas everything else is fragile but quite mobile. Although with a 12-inch move it's still quite mobile. So
yeah, it is surprisingly fast for a mining vehicle. I guess they've really spooked up the engine, and it's terrible ground clearance. I can't imagine you'd want to go very fast on it.
In the full rules, it does, as the model might suggest by its shape, have a transport capacity. I don't really know why they didn't put the transport capacity in Combat Patrol, to be perfectly honest, because I don't feel like that would be game breaking. Maybe there is a reason. Maybe they play tested it and found it was...
Yeah, it has a transport capacity of 6. It also has firing deck 6, so anyone in it can fire out of it. Oh, I guess because one of their secondary objectives is to have the Magus alive in the middle of the board. If there was a transport, you just put her in it, and then they'd have to kill the transport.
And I do like the overall design language of the model. It does look like a rough and ready industrial vehicle. You can see this being all over the Imperium as a standard template vehicle, and also a perfect thing for Genestealer cultists to steal and repurpose. But as you pointed out, it does actually have terrible ground clearance and no suspension. So in a practical sense, this would actually be a terrible off-road vehicle. And also the whole drill dozer thing with big saw blades on to grind rocks, which doesn't really look like it would actually work for what it's sort of implied it's supposed to be for.
It looks like shards of rock are going to be spraying all over the front of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And probably into the people on the back.
It would probably work well for clearing rubble or trees and vegetation. That would possibly be a good use of a dozer blade like that.
It does also make the Goliath truck. You probably could magnetise to switch between them. The Rockgrinder has a higher bed on the back. The truck has a twin autocannon, I think, in place of the turret, and the front's different. You have to take the dozer blade off and all that sort of things. The truck looks like it actually has suspension because the axles are lower down, so it has a higher ground clearance. It has some alternate weapon options like the heavy mining laser and the heavy seismic cannon. You don't need to magnetise the weapon. You can actually get away with just slotting it in, so if you do want to swap the main gun on the Rockgrinder, you can. And due to the way the kit works is you get 2 or 3 extra hybrid neophyte bodies to have people on the back for the truck, so you can have some spare bases, you can use them as extra neophytes. And I guess if you just want some industrial vehicles to have as terrain pieces as well, they look pretty good. Just maybe don't put the weapons on them, just leave the dozer blade and stick the hatch on. And so yeah, it's a really good kit and obviously good value for money, split over 2 issues.
But anyway, I think that'll be it for this video and this episode. So let us know what you thought in the comments below, or if you are a Genestealer Cults player, let us know how you get your best out of your Goliath Rockgrinders. If you did enjoy the video, then do feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We've got 20 issues and 2 full combat patrols left to go, the Astra Militarum and the World Eaters, so the videos will keep coming. Until then though, we've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.